Once upon a time, in a land that was not so far, a land that was far off but near, there was a tree. And this was not just any tree, but it was a grand, and it was a large, and it was a big tree. And this tree had roots that were rooted in the earth, grounded in ground. And this tree sprung up, and it was a big tree, and its branches went out and shoot out. And this tree was in the middle of a village, in the middle of the place where the locals and all the people would gather around. And the people would go to this tree and they'd spit on it. They'd spit on the tree, and they'd curse the tree, and they'd yell at the tree. And they started beating the tree. And they took their knives and they took their swords and they cut and hit the tree. And they took their axes and chainsaws and they tore down the tree. And finally they took fire. They took fire and they torched and burnt this tree. And this tree became ashes. It was burnt all the way to the ground and it became ashes. And all of the people of the city had a huge festival, and they cheered and they gathered around and they sang and they danced that they had broken this tree, that they had destroyed this tree, that they had burnt this tree down into its final last pieces until death, until its final away, until its final departure in ashes. And they sang and they danced, and all of the people in the village went back and they left. And they went back to their own houses and their own homes, and they settled down. Well, years passed. 3 years passed. And out of the ashes, a little sapling grew up. And the people didn't notice. But this sapling grew. And in a matter of just moments, it grew and grew and grew and grew. And it became so tall that its roots reached down into the underworld. And it became so tall that its branches reached all the way up to heaven. And this tree was larger than it was before. It was grander than it had ever been. It connected the earth and the underworld and heaven itself, and all three layers and all three areas and all three realms were connected by this tree. And it bore fruit. It bore the most sweet fruit of life that ever. And the people came and they wondered and they looked and they gazed at this tree, and they ate of its fruit, and they saw that the fruit was good. And so the people gathered together and they had a festival, and they danced and they sang and they told stories, and they circled and sang and circled this tree. And the people were finally at peace with this grand tree, and the tree was finally at peace with them, and they lived in perfect happiness and perfect harmony, singing and dancing and making melody in their hearts.